All right. Next question is Toby off of YouTube. What exercises would you recommend for someone training for their first marathon, both running workouts and strength training? And what racing shoes would you think would be good to finish a first marathon? No time, just more focused on completion. I've not trained past the half marathon distance yet, but want to try and look towards a spring marathon. Well, Toby, that's exciting.
That's
excited for you.
Nathan, what do you think? I want you to start off on this.
Sure. You know, I'm in my marathon training block right now. Should we do the exercise ones or?
Yeah, there's a lot of questions there. What do you think?
There's a lot of questions in there.
If you had to choose 3 exercises, what would you choose for a new marathoner?
Oh man, 3? Only 3?
Yep. You only get to choose 3.
Well, I guess I'll say what I'm doing.
All right, that's fine.
I'm doing other things, but if I had to pick my 3, I'm doing. At least I would have one exercise that targets your glutes a little bit more. I'd have one exercise that kind of gets your quads and your hamstrings, and then one that kind of gets your calves. I think maybe if you had to break up 3 exercises, that's maybe how I would choose to do it. Okay. And so right now I'm doing kind of crab walks, banded, like I put a band around my knees and I'm doing some side and diagonal stepping with them. I'm doing weighted kettlebell squats, really high repetition. Like I'll even do like sets of 30 to 50 a couple times a week. And then, yeah, I'm doing some calf raise things, but I'm recovering a calf injury as well. So I can't really speak too much, but you can either, I think what's fun about the calf stuff is sometimes I'll do step ups as well. I'm doing step ups every week right now, but like step ups. And then at the top, you can do a calf raise so that you're hitting your calf at the top and kind of working on triple extension at the top of the step up, meaning extending your hip, your knee, and your ankle at the same time. So those would be maybe my 3. So banded sidewalks, which unless, never mind. I'm just going to go too deep.
I think those are really good. I think that's similar to what I would suggest, where knowing just injury risk, like injury patterns of especially marathoners, lateral hip strength, like knee being like lateral hip strength, glute, quad, hamstring, and then calf. So I'd say what Nate's suggestion is doing like lateral exercises like the crab walks or the band walks to side addressing. That's really important because marathon runners, people don't go side to side. You don't get that stuff as much. So you need to address that. Some kind of single leg squat or single leg deadlift is really good because you're working on single leg mechanics and you get the glute max fires more when you're doing single leg activities versus double leg activities, and running is a single leg activity. Single leg squats are great because you get quad, you get glute, you get a little hamstring in there. And then calf raises are probably one of the biggest things I suggest because we know from the evidence that one of the most active muscles during the phase of running where your foot's on the ground, the calf is one of the most active ones. So calf strains injuries are very common. So if you're doing this, you should be able to do 20 to 25 single leg heel raises or calf raises in a row on both sides. If you can't do that, you should be working on it. And if you can do it, you still might be working on it. So Nathan that's great. There are millions of exercises out there to accomplish this stuff, but addressing glute, knee, quad, hamstring, and calf is probably the biggest things I would suggest.
I wouldn't make it too complicated on yourself. Like keep it simple so that you do it. And then, Matt, what are your thoughts on, because you said single leg squats, and that's an intimidating looking exercise, like to think about how you do that. How do you like to do your single leg squats? Or do you think something like lunges or step ups could work for that?
In my mind, yes, mechanics are slightly different, but the end goal exactly the same. So again, you have options. You can do a single leg squat, a step up, a lunge. It doesn't matter as long as you're getting some single leg biased in there, because again, each one has a benefit, but do the exercise you're most likely to keep doing.
Yeah.
It's useless. You're not going to get any benefit if you're not doing anything. Do the one you're most likely to do. And this is a great question because it's very important for runners to be doing strength training. It is one of the few things that we know reduces your injury risk. And also we know from some interesting literature that running doesn't increase your bone density the way we would like. What does is that higher load from strength training does. So for bone stress injuries, for muscle injuries, it's one of the most important adjunct things you can be doing as a runner.
Yeah.
And it's like the people I was treating this morning, like one of the ladies is already doing like deadlifts and power cleans. I'm like, I'm so thankful you're already doing this stuff, because the thing runners don't like doing is strength training, and that's the most beneficial thing you can do from so many aspects. So great question.
Yeah. The other part he asked about what shoes would we recommend for race day, and he doesn't have a time. This person doesn't have a time goal. I would just find the shoe that you love to run in.
Yep.
And that has worked well for, you're going to run plenty of long runs. If you take a shoe over 13 miles, and you enjoy it at 13,
right,
you're going to be fine for the marathon. No shoe is going to feel perfect by the end of a marathon, especially your first run. So just find the one that you love to run in comfort wise, and just let that comfort filter, which we've talked about a lot, let that guide your decision. You don't need a plated shoe. You could choose a plated shoe if it's your favorite, but I probably, the people who I quote unquote like guide in their running are not healthy. They're injured. So my recommendations are typically different. Oh, he asked too about running workouts, and I kind of want to like punt that to run coaches a little bit. Like yes, we do our own, but I think I want to punt that expertise to the run coaches for running workouts.
There's some great coaches out there, so we'd encourage you to look them up and ask that stuff. There's great resources out there for you. We can obviously tell you the long run's one of the most important runs, but again, your goals and how your body responds, it's best to find someone who can work with you on that. But I totally agree with Nathan. If it's a first time marathon, your goal is to complete it. I kind of hesitate to suggest a super shoe. I'd really encourage you to go find a really comfortable trainer that you really enjoy. Like if I had to go do a marathon tomorrow, it would probably be in the Magnify, just because it's so comfortable. It works well for me for my long runs. If I was shooting for speed, it might be different, but if I'm just going to complete it and I want something comfortable, it's going to get me to the finish line, I usually suggest like that comfortable trainer that you know and you trust. That'd be good. If you're going to do a marathon in a super shoe, I know it's the big thing right now, but you got to make sure your body's ready to handle that. That's a whole nother thing. So find a comfortable shoe, and it doesn't need to be the fastest one. It does need to be the most comfortable one though.
Yeah. And there's something to be said about a foam that doesn't bottom out. Like if you, depending on what kind, if you're a heavier runner, or if you tend to land pretty heavy, sometimes having extra stack feels nice. So like you said, the Magnify could be a good option. I know for me, like Symmetros would be one that I would lean to. The Wave Rider 24 for me. I like the 24 more than 25. Those would be shoes that I'd lean towards, but really good question. And I hope your training and your marathon goes well.
Good luck.
Awesome.